Hey, good evening, everyone, and let's get the recording started. Mucho pronto, and we shall proceed with the Liberty Talk.
In the restaurant of life, we're putting freedom back on the menu. It's the Missouri Liberty Report with John Williams, working with grassroots organizations and legislatures to make Missouri the freest state in the nation. Let freedom ring.
All right, folks, and we are back with another rip-roaring edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much to those of you joining us tonight in the live streams, or if you're checking this out via podcast or radio. Brandon and I greatly appreciate your continued listenership. With that being said, we've got some really funny topics to delve into tonight because, again, the left's continuing to melt down. It's just the normal behavior. People are losing their minds, and I find it rather amusing. I'm not going to lie. I do find it amusing because, and we'll get into all this, but it's the fact that when certain picks have been announced, the left goes, no, they are not experienced. Or can you imagine these people having this information? And it's like, that's the enjoyable part. It's these aren't the what do you call them? These aren't the people that we've deemed appropriate for the job, so now we're going to have it, or it's just because Trump picked him. You know how to. So anyway, we're going to get into all that. Brandon, I'll let you start off tonight. Just one of the picks that springs to mind that you find entertaining on how badly the left is losing their minds.
So I think one of the most consequential and influential picks is going to be Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. That is awesome. And Dave Smith brought this up on his Twitter, so I'm not going to take credit for this thought, but he was saying that the establishment tried to commit a coup on Donald Trump. The CIA, John Brennan, of the intelligence agencies, they all tried to smear Trump as a Russian agent with the Steele dossier and everything. And they do the same thing to Tulsi Gabbard. They try to make her seem like this Russian puppet. She's probably Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the terrible congressman from Florida who used to be she was in the DNC, and then they found out that she was helping Hillary Clinton, her campaign, while she was the head of the DNC. So then she had to resign. Well, she was talking about how Tulsi Gabbard was probably a Russian puppet. And I am super excited for her to be in the intelligence communities, to basically lead them and make them expose all of the nasty stuff they've been doing. I think this is going to be one of the best picks for America, is Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not even the biggest Tulsi Gabbard fan. She's got some hawkish opinions sometimes, but in this role in particular, I'm very excited. John?
Yeah, this is mine too. I find very intriguing as far as the way Pocahontas had a freak out over it. And she's like, can you imagine letting her see all of our national security secrets and all that? And I'm like, yeah, I actually can. You did the Secret Skies program on this woman, and now guess what? She's angry, and now maybe somebody isn't going to get the outcome that they want. Maybe they're going to get hammered a little bit, and rightfully so. And I don't think I saved the video. There is a video I found of her, and make sure my Bluetooth's turned all the way down. She was talking to somebody about when she went in. Oh, yeah, here it is. Let me play this for you real quick because I find this very interesting. I don't know. I think she's on the Sean Ryan show, and she's talking about this. Let me pull this up.
This headline that popped up, the Department of Defense is announcing they're going to give economic hardship bonuses to troops.
Okay. Never mind. That's not the right clip. Dadgummit. I had one of her. She was talking about when Trump got elected in 2016. She went to Trump Tower, spoke to him for an hour, and apparently the Democrat Party got very upset. Because how dare she humanize him? He wanted her take on everything going on in the Middle East. And, she served in the military in the Middle East. I think she was a combat medic or something to that effect. So she's seen what actually happens in war. But yeah, it was, how dare you humanize Trump? And she's like, he just wanted my opinion. So right after that, and her speaking out against what was going on, what the plan was for Syria, and then she got all kinds of calls from the Democrats on that because she voted no. And then, of course, Hillary Clinton comes out and says she's a Putin puppet because she absolutely eviscerated the vice president, the now vice president, on stage at a debate. And it was, she's definitely a Putin puppet. Like, anybody's going to listen. I don't know how anybody gives credence to what the Wicked Witch of the West says. When Hillary Clinton speaks, it should be, all you should hear is the word evil repetitiously going off in your head. Like, that's it. Evil, 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 evil. And your brain doesn't even hear the words. It's too busy bouncing whatever evil crap comes out of her mouth right back at her face in the TV screen. So, yeah, the Tulsi Gabbard thing has me a little hyped because she is pretty good on some of the war things. Now, Israel, she's still a big backer of Israel. But Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Syria, I think she's pretty solid on those things. But the other one, I will just bring this one up. The other one that's going to be interesting to watch unfold is the RFK pick for head of HHS. My take real quick, and then Brandon, I'll let you go for a bit. I understand where he's coming out, or I understand where he's coming from when he's disturbed by what he sees as far as sickness in this country. I totally understand. He's like, look, diabetes rates, obesity rates, everything's shooting up. We got a lot of problems with our food. I wholeheartedly agree with RFK and all those things. I just don't want the banning, like bringing out the ban hammer and just ban it. No. What I would rather see RFK do is be more educational in his role. Take that stupid food pyramid, wad it up in a nice, I don't want a nice tight ball. I want a loose ball. And then cram it up whoever's butt thinks that's a good idea. And then reshape the food pyramid. Hey, eat a lot more protein, a lot less carbs. Be better on education, but don't bring out the ban hammer. If he can do that, I'll be super happy.
Well, and I would also just like to see him get government out of the places that it's in. The way it's in bed with Big Pharma. Like, if he could just cut ties with all of the ways that the Big Pharma is already ingrained in the government, the way they control like the FDA schedule and all that other stuff, that would be a big win. That would be a big win. And it's just better than the way it was. With RFK in there, you're right. I hope he doesn't go in there and start banning stuff, but I'm sure the government's got a hand in funding like research that has been wrong in the past, like you said, with the food pyramid and the way they used to tell you to eat a bunch of carbs all the time. I mean, it's got to be a step in the right direction compared to the way it's been going. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely see it as a win. Like you said, I hope he doesn't try to start banning a bunch of stuff. It's just not in a libertarian nature to want to stop people from doing things that they want to do. I do think a well-informed public on health is good, but it's not a constitutional requirement.
Right.
It's just something you should be doing as a person, is being healthy and learning that like red 40 dye and yellow 5 dye might not be good for you. Like, you should know those things, and you should take them into account with how much you let your kids intake and all that. It should be on you, but like I said, I hope RFK goes in there and just shreds the big pharmaceutical industry out of the government in as many ways as possible. That's what I want to see, and I'm optimistic for it. I am.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm looking at this again. You're right. It should be the parents, but if the my kids and what I learned in school is bunk. And it would just be nice for someone in a leadership role to say, hey, I'm not here to tell you how to run your life, but look at all of these things as far as your health. Look at all the things that we can do as a country if you're more educated on health. This is what you should be eating, and maybe avoid these foods. And literally leave it at that. We don't have to get super stupid with, again, you don't have to bring out the band hammer and just play whack-a-mole with everything. But as good as he is on these topics, I think it would be his responsibility to bring those things to the forefront and go, this is some of the problems we're seeing with our food supply. Let's work on, cleaner food and these things. And just not lead the way by handing out money, but saying, here's some of the things that we found. Maybe we should try, maybe farmers could implement these things. You don't have to buy all your stuff from Monsanto that's that won't die from the herbicide that they also created, and you're spraying it all over food and then you're putting it in your gut. So I feel like he has a responsibility because he garnered a lot of interest strictly talking about health. The thing that gets me is the Lincoln Project's tweet the other day. Hurry up and go get your vaccinations because you probably won't get them for long. It's like, okay, he's never said he wants to eliminate vaccines. Now, he has said something that I don't necessarily have a problem with, is because he didn't make it sound like it was going to be done through force. He just says, hey, how about the vaccines are all tested the way they're supposed to be tested, and then the data is put out, and we see if these things are actually safe and effective. That's all he's saying. He's not saying, I'm taking them all off the schedule. That's not what he's saying. He's just saying they should be checked for efficacy. They should be checked for safety. And I'm okay with that because let's face it, the FDA and the people of their ilk, they're the ones that okay these things. So I think if the FDA is actually there to protect the American citizens, then yes, they should live by the words that, they love to ban natural stuff sometimes because, well, that hasn't been proven by the FDA to be effective. Okay, jackass. Fine. You didn't test it because they didn't bribe you with enough money for you to say it's okay to take. Just say that. Say the words. They didn't bribe us to push their stuff to the front of the line to get it okayed so they could, with the fancy little, this has been, FDA approved for whatever, so they can put it on a bottle and they can put it on the shelves and try to sell it to people if you didn't get your extortion money first. But, yeah, those two picks are the ones I have a little bit of hope for. Marco Rubio?
Okay,
God.
before we get into the foreign policy one, because I've got a lot to say on it. I've got a lot to say on his foreign policy picks. I've got one more pick of Trump's that I like, and then I want to talk about Doge for just a second. But I will start with Matt Gaetz for Attorney General.
Yeah.
So that pick, you want to talk about firing some people up because he's not even liked on the right. He whenever he joined the Freedom Caucus and the rest of the Democrats in ousting Mike McCarthy, he became a right-wing villain. Like, to the establishment right-wingers, my former opponent for District House, there was a rumor that she cried. There was a picture of her. It looked like she was tearing up on the House floor the day he got ousted. And she was like leading a prayer in the congressional halls with a bunch of Republicans praying that Kevin McCarthy wouldn't get ousted. And Matt Gaetz was on the front line charge with people like Thomas Massey to get him out because he wouldn't do the single line voting or the single item voting. He was making backdoor deals with Democrats, Kevin McCarthy was, to push through things like Ukraine funding without funding for the border, without stopping immigration flow and all of that, without doing any of the promises that you actually make as conservatives to your constituents. The Republicans weren't doing that, and Matt Gaetz held his feet to the fire, so he was already not a big fan of them. Now, whether or not the one thing I think is funny, though, about this pick, I will say, is that he immediately just gave up his House of Representatives seat. And as far as I know, no one else who's been nominated has given up their seat yet. They're all waiting to be nominated for their cabinet position or their spot, as far as I know. And then they were saying that they were like 2 days away from dropping some super damning ethics report out of the Congressional Ethics Committee. Whether there's truth to that, I'm not certain of. I just think it's weird. If there wasn't much basis to it, he wouldn't have resigned. Because because it seems like he's just trying to keep this committee report from coming out, because now Mike Johnson and other Republicans are saying they won't release the committee, they won't release the ethics committee's report. And there are Republican members in the Senate who are saying they either are skeptical or won't vote for Matt Gaetz without seeing that ethics report first, which is just, if you're a Republican and you're going with Trump's agenda, if you're like, oh, I'm going to defer to Trump's agenda on a lot of things and support his cabinet picks, and then question the Attorney General just because you don't like him because he tried to oust one of your buddies as Speaker of the House. I don't know. The whole situation with the Ethics Committee report is weird, but I do love Matt Gaetz's pick, and I actually tweeted this out. John Bolton had this long tweet about how he didn't think Matt Gaetz was going to be a very good pick, how it was bad for the country, and I was like, this confirms that Matt Gaetz was a good pick. It's like when Jim Cramer predicts a stock. That's when John Bolton endorses somebody. That's how you know to do the inverse for sure to make good.
Yeah, that when I saw that, I was like, that's the thing about all of this. It's the fact that they freak out super bad. People, well, even, again, with the Tulsi Gabbard one, some chick from that used to work with the CIA losing her mind over Tulsi Gabbard. And I'm like, okay, Tulsi's far from libertarian. She's more libertarian than most of you all, which I think scares the bejesus out of you, because she's going to be privy to this information. Makes you wonder if they're going to bleach bit every server in the NSA or whatever, just to Hillary Clinton everything just to get rid of it. And she's going to walk in and be like, where's all these files? Like, the dog ate them. Like, what dog? Well, we had to put down, but there was a big dog in here, and you should have seen him when he got done. He was so bloated. He ate a lot of papers, ma'am. A lot of paper got eaten by the dog.
Dude, they're gonna wipe everything clean. You think they're gonna let her find out all of the stuff? I just like how I just like the optimism of that their power is just gonna hopefully be greatly diminished. If she is anything like she says she's gonna be, then hopefully she just goes in there and goes, what are you guys actually doing here? Like, what are the operations actually going on? I mean, I just couldn't see them trying to get around it anymore. She's going to be in charge of it. She has the capability to go in there and do full scope investigations on her own agencies and just pick through old files and release what she wants. So I don't know. I think that's a good pick. Now, what do you think of this Doge? So it's not a real government agency, because my theory on it is that Elon Musk and Vivek didn't want to give up their business dealings, which, you'd have to be a member of the government of that way. To be a cabinet position, you'd have to get rid of a lot of your business dealings and ties and stuff. And so one point somebody brought up to me, which I think is interesting, is that one of the guys in charge of government efficiency is taking taxpayer dollars to try to go to Mars. Isn't that just a little bit of irony, though, with Elon Musk being in charge of the government efficiency, is how much taxpayer subsidy he gets? But anyway, I just don't know if they're going to get anything done. I think they could just make a bunch of recommendations, and a bunch of people in the cabinet, a bunch of people in positions could just go, we're not doing that. And there'd be a little bit of pushback. Trump might step in and get a couple small wins out of it by stepping in and enforcing some of the recommendations. But I think by and large, it's not going to be they're not going to cut $2 trillion out of the budget. That's not going to happen. So don't hold your breath on that promise.
The way I'm looking at it is another one of those responsibility things. I think if we're being honest, and if Elon's going to be honest, which I don't hold any faith in that. I'm just saying, If Elon Musk wants to do the right thing, then what he should do, since he owns X, is everything that they find that is just super stupid spending, you don't have to dig very deep for that. He just posts everything to X. And any really dumb government spending, he's like, hey, they spent this much money on this. And just plaster X with all the dumb government spending, all the waste that he can find, especially the really egregious ones. And he just posts them up there. I think that's a good starting point for people to really get a grasp. Because we know everybody's heard about the $10,000 toilet seats, and we hear about the money of Ukraine and Israel. And then even Rand Paul gets up every budget cycle and has big whiteboards filled with, like, look at this stupid stuff. What are we doing? We're looking at the mating habits of birds on cocaine and all that stuff. But multiply that by 1,000. And Elon just every day posting new, egregious, horrible spending by the government.
Oh, so yeah, like you said though, Rand Paul already does that every year, and to no avail, to no support. No, I mean, a lot of people cheer him on X, and people on on shows will cheer on Rand Paul's what is it, the Festivus grieving government grieving cycle or whatever, but it just doesn't go anywhere. I mean, people get excited by it, but again, it's just going to be one of those. I'm not certain it's going to have a ton of direct effect. But one of the things that you were talking about that they were posting that I found absolutely hilarious, that our government funded $3 million to watch hamsters on steroids fight. Why would they not film that and sell it? If they're going to do it for $3 million, that should be a video somewhere that the American public who paid for it should get to see. Because I would never do that. I think it's wrong to make animals fight in that sense. But if they already did it, I would like to see it. That sounds interesting. It's just super funny that the government. The more you think about it, you're like, our government spent $3 million to watch hamsters fight on steroids.
Get roid rage and have a Royal Rumble in a hamster cage. Yeah. The thing is, I think there's a slightly. I think Elon has a bigger reach on X because it's his platform, and I think if he just starts posting it, I think that information may get spread more than what Rand Paul could do. That's what I'm hoping. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm hoping that's what we see, that you just get an even bigger reach across the platform, and then that spreads to other platforms, and people are like, good God. And again, if it's 3 or 4 times a week, you're getting something. And people are just like, and you just, because the thing with Rand, it's like once a year, you get that. But if it's 2 or 3 times a week and people start, screenshotting these things or whatever, saving them and just looking at them and going, damn, dude, for like the last 6 months, it's 3 times a week. What are they doing? It just to ramp it up a little bit, just to get people maybe a little more interested. Again, I don't expect them to fix anything, but I think the key is, again, getting the public educated. And if he would actually do that, again, not holding out a lot of hope. I know there's a lot of hypotheticals here, folks. Just bear with me. But if he would do that, use that responsibility or use those resources and do something like that, maybe we raise a little more awareness and we chip away a little bit. Even, listening to some of the podcasts, let's say somehow they're like, all right, we cut $50 billion. Or let's say $15 billion. We cut $15 billion off. I'm like, well, that's better than it's ever been in a long time, because they always like, we're going to cut spending. And all they do is, if they do cut it, they cut the automatic budget hike built in, but they don't actually ever chop anything off the existing budget before the budget hikes. So if let's say, okay, we cut $15, $20 billion off. Well, that's better than any of the rest of the people before you did. I will take that as a slight win for liberty, just because they saved the American taxpayers $15 billion. I'm like, okay, that's a good starting point. Now, do I expect administrations after them to take up that mantle and continue that effort? No, of course I don't. But if we can get a small win here and there on the budget, and we slow this burgeoning government down a little bit, maybe it buys us some time to get our affairs in order. So when they finally do destroy the whole system, we're a little more ready for it. I don't know. I'm trying to find a silver lining here, but when you're talking about the federal government, it's damn near impossible to do.
Well, he's already talking about cutting the Department of Education. He put Lee Zeldin in charge of the EPA. Another great pick. I like Lee Zeldin. He ran for governor in New York, I believe.
Oh yeah.
He's some sort of statewide governor, statewide New York race, and I just think we're gonna go back to an America First energy policy, which is not a bad idea. It's really not. I think it does make it cheaper. Opening up more avenues, allowing more people to drill in America is a good idea, in my opinion. Getting the government out of the way and allowing people to have these permits, and having oil made in America, I think or made in America, our energy independence is important, and I think it's a solid step there. Now, what do you think about Trump's border czar guy, Tom Homan? Have you seen anything? Have you heard about this guy?
I have heard about it. People have been posting clips of him during House hearings, Senate hearings, and stuff. And the one everybody keeps talking about is the leftists or whoever freaking out like, you're going to separate families, and he's like, no, I'll deport the whole family back. Now, Trump has said he would deport them, and then they could come back legally. Now, again, that doesn't hold a whole lot of water with me, but again, in my view, you don't have to deport them. You stop the checks. You stop every bit of money that goes to them. You cut that off, and most of them are going to go right back, because they're either going to get a job and become, effective productive members of society, or they'll go back to where they came from. I don't think you have to spend a bunch of taxpayer money trying to round all these people up. I think you just cut the funding off and problem solved for the most part. That's my belief anyway.
Whatever it is, the policies are going to be better than letting everyone in, giving them checks, giving them housing, giving them health care, giving them everything that we pay for, giving them all of that. I mean, it's got to be a better policy than that. I do think you're right. I think mass deportations is a bad idea. I think if you cut off the checks and you cut off all of the free stuff, you'll see a massive, like you said, either they'll all go to work or they'll all leave again. And so I think Tom Homan, he's very hard-lined on, like you said, you're talking about the one you were referencing, it was AOC, and she was talking about how family separations, and he was like, if I get a DUI and my kid's in the car, they're going to separate me from my kid. And these people coming across illegally are committing a crime. And so, yeah, we separate we're going to separate criminals from children at the border the way you would anyone else who commits a crime in America, which is a valid point. And, so again, another one of Trump's picks that that I don't hate, I'll say, with that one for sure.
Yeah, everybody, I talk to so many people at work, like, just if they just finish the damn wall, it'll be okay. And it's like, well, a wall's really good at keeping people out. And as my friend Sam says, it's also a good way of keeping people in. I just think you could take National Guard, you could do anything. You could take military and pull them out of some of the bases across the ocean and put them at the border, and then we'll see how big a cojones the cartel has when there's military guys lined up along the border making sure nobody crosses illegally. I'm like, okay, because the cartel's like, we'll go to war with them. Like, yeah, I'm sure if we had a bunch of armored vehicles and stuff down there and guys fully armed to the teeth, we'll see how brave you actually are when it comes to having a firefight with U.S. military to get people across the border illegally. because they're paying you. And then I don't know. I saw a clip of Homan giving off some stats. Apparently, according to him, 30-something% of the women that are brought across by coyotes are raped before they get into the U.S. And he's talking about finding tractor trailers with dead kids inside of them because they suffocated trying to get across. And he was very, very fired up at one of these hearings, and he was just letting whatever dumb senator was asking him questions and just ripping the guy a new one. And I'm like, I have some respect for him because he's sitting in this hearing and he's just letting them have it both barrels, which generally people try to be, very civilized and they give these very mundane, generic answers. And he was like, there's nothing generic about this dude. He is on fire, which again, if they do it the right way, I have no problem with it. Again, the federal government, they could take troops and put them along the border, or they could do the opposite of what Biden's administration and so many other administrations do, is trying to keep the states from exercising their sovereignty by kicking them back across the border. Texas put that barbed wire up in the water, and then Biden's like, oh, you got to take that down. People could get trapped and drown. So they're in there, and they're allowed. They have to, and then the courts are saying, well, yeah, they're allowed to go down there. That's Texas's sovereign border. If Texas wants to deal with the immigration problem because the people are going into their state, they should be allowed to do so. Immigration, for those of you who don't have a grasp of this, is a state's issue as well. Everybody thinks that this just is federal government only. No, that's a state border. Yes, that state resides within the United States, but constitutionally they have, or they're supposed to have, the ability to defend their border and keep people from coming in illegally. So don't always look to the federal government to solve these problems when the federal government could act constitutionally and say, that's your border, and if that's the way you choose to deal with it, that's your sovereign right, have at it. As long as you're not committing any crimes, you're not dragging people in and putting them in torture rooms like the military does. You don't have your own Guantanamo Bay, have at it.
So, what I think is, so have you seen this? It was Mike Waltz, the national security advisor. That was the first pick I heard of that I was not a fan of. I will just say this: Israel won the election. Israel made out like bandits, and their pick so far. So Elise Stefanik is the UN ambassador pick. And this one, the UN ambassador doesn't have a ton of power, in my opinion. They just don't. The only time I can remember the UN ambassador doing a whole lot is the UN helped facilitate the CIA's coup in Ukraine in 2014. But other than that, it's more of just like a symbolic, kind of move. It's just like basically a symbol of America's stance on certain things to the world. And she every day she tweets out how there are still she'll be like, day 405 of Hamas still has 101 prisoners in Gaza, and she pushes that narrative. Mike Huckabee is the ambassador to Israel now, and he has said he doesn't believe there are a such thing as Palestinians. He also doesn't believe there's a such thing as the West Bank. He calls it Judea and Samaria, and believes it is 100% belongs to Israel, despite the fact that people who are not considered themselves Israeli currently live there. And then, like you said, Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio's a total hawk. And I should mention that with almost all of these people, and then also Pete Hegseth, another one of Trump's hawkish picks. They're all also hawks on China. So if you think that we're going to stop having a lot of our military in the South China Sea provoking China, and we're not going to be in the Middle East making enemies all over, our foreign policy is going to be just about as bad as it's ever been under this current administration. I think so.
The only positive thing I've heard about Hegseth is that he likes the defend the guard bills. He's a big fan of defend the guard, and I'm like, okay, well that's, if he could help get that done, help push that across, or twist the right arms, I'd be okay with that. Okay, great, let's do that. That's one step towards, somewhat fixing the foreign policy. Again, you're talking about a lot of neocons and war hawks. That's the thing, folks. I try to keep people from flying around in the sky all high and mighty because Trump won. It's like, guys, you're not one person. Okay, if Jesus Christ comes back to earth and goes, hey, all the war hawks, you're gone, and he just like teleports them back home, okay. But I mean, let's be honest. Now, Ron Paul wouldn't have the horrible cabinet picks, but even if you're a pretty freedom-oriented guy, to think you're gonna take office and suddenly all the awful, horrible, evil people who love sending somebody else's kids off to another country to get blown up or die, you're just gonna magically make most of those people flee? No, man. They're like ticks. They're dug in. Sure, you can pick one off, but all you have to do is walk back outside and more ticks, more leeches, more parasite, more swamp parasites are going to attach themselves. And it's almost like this is probably not the right kind of comparison to make, but we go into another country, we screw things up, it gets people fired up, and we create more enemies. It's like if you go after the establishment and you take out one or two, it's like more of them come out of the woodwork. It's like, good Lord, did somebody open up the tick hatch in the ground and now they're all spilling out and there's parasites everywhere, slowly draining the life out of the host, which is us, the taxpayers? Is that what we're doing? So we got to some people got to get rid of this pie in the sky like notion that Donald Trump's going to come in on his white horse and all the establishment swamp creatures are go running away. Well, if that was going to happen, that would have happened in 2016, and we wouldn't even be talking about half the stuff right now. So let's be honest here.
Oh, yeah. So Elise Stefanik, the UN ambassador, his pick, she was given the Sheldon and Miriam Adelson, Zionist of the Year award or something for her, work in Congress grilling any pro-Palestinians. Marco Rubio. So do you remember when the Nord Stream 2 pipelines blew up and all of the even people like Jeffrey Sachs from day one knew that it was America. He outlined the military personnel we had in the area at that time and how it had to have been the U.S. Navy. And Marco Rubio was trying to say that common sense. They were like, even Dana Bash was like, well, so does the U.S. government have any evidence to prove that Russia was involved in blowing up its own pipeline to Europe? And he was like, well, it's really just common sense if you think about it. Who has that capability? Pretty much just the Russians. Oh, dude, it's just. And what's funny about Elise Stefanik and a couple others, I'm sure Mike Huckabee too, at the beginning of the Ukraine war, they were like, Joe Biden's not doing enough. We need to send more and send more and send more. Now they've kind of changed their tune because I think Trump actually wants peace there. He's got to be one of the only ones in his cabinet that wants peace there because they've all talked about funding Ukraine in the past. That Marco Rubio voted for it once. He voted against it one time, but he voted for it in 2022. And so, I mean, they're all just so hawks. And the Russian narrative is so unpopular, like among the conservatives, among the right. It's so unpopular that they have to at least pretend like they don't want to keep funding Ukraine. But with China, they're so hawkish. With Ukraine or with Israel, they're so hawkish. I mean, we're just going to be constantly it's $1 trillion a year. I wouldn't be shocked if it just continues to go up. If we're spending $1.5 trillion in 2 years on our military. I mean, I could see a 50% increase in spending.
Yeah, I've got that. Let me play that clip from, as Trump would call him once, little Marco Rubio. Here we go.
Talking about escalatory tactics. the stunning new leaks in the Nord Stream pipelines connecting Europe to Russia. Western intelligence officials say they were likely caused by underwater explosions. President Biden called it a deliberate attack of sabotage. Does the U.S. have evidence that Russia is responsible?
Well, I'm not going to comment on whatever intelligence products they've produced or had. I think logic and common sense will tell you that these things don't blow up on their own, especially in strategic and key points. Someone has to know where the vulnerabilities are, and someone has to have the capability to go down there and do it. So there's only a handful of countries that do. I doubt very seriously that the Chinese are involved in it, although I'm not a fan of the Chinese Communist Party. I wouldn't go as far as to accuse them of doing that. I think it's pretty clear. Someone did this, and the only people in that region who have both the motive and the capability to have done it are Russian or Russian forces. So I think for me, it's not an intelligence matter at this point. It's a common sense matter.
Okay. Before we even talk about that even more, that dude was rambling. Well, he wasn't rambling it off. He's just saying these lines. He either hadn't had any coffee yet, because that's the most boring. Well, it's just common sense. Like, no enthusiasm. Like, at least if you're going to BS me into, like, wanting to go murder Russians or something, at least do it with some enthusiasm. Get me hyped up. Like, I get to go kill a commie for mommy? Sign me up, bro. And he's just like, it's just common sense. So what is the Russians have? Of course. That is like, of course, I will blow up a pipeline that feeds Europe natural gas, and that's a big money maker for me. And of course, I'm going to blow up my own pipeline when I'm at war with Ukraine. And I'm going to blow that up so I monetarily screw myself, because nobody with more than 2 brain cells to rub together would doubt my authority and power and my audacity to blow up my own pipeline. Like, I'm Putin, I'm insane, and I blow up my own crap all the time. Watch, hold my beer and watch this. Come on.
Okay, so they would just shut off the gas. Why would they have to blow up their own pipeline? If they were going to hold your gas hostage, you would shut it off as like a way. When you blow it up, then you lose the leverage. That's why he's like, I hate it when he's like, it's common sense. I'm like, common sense would tell you it was America. We had troops in that region, and we had a motive, which was to force Europeans to, like, you can't go to the negotiating table and say, hey, we're going to give you some more gas if there aren't any pipelines to deliver it. So it actually hurt one of Russia's negotiating power, because they couldn't just immediately start giving energy back to Europe. And it's just so brazen of a lie to tell. And now he's the Secretary of State. Well, I guess he didn't lie. They're so good at that, by not technically lying, but just like omitting what they know to be true. I mean, it's a version of lying. But.
And let's not forget this clip. Let me pull this up. Everybody, because again, the Russians took out their own pipeline. That was the narrative. But then we have Biden saying this.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
So that's right out of Biden's mouth.
In
Germany. Right out. Oh, we'll do it. We'll be able to.
They told you they were going to do it. They said they were going to do it, and then tried to blame it on the Russians. And it's amazing how many people on the right believed that. They believed it. I mean, on the left, it's even worse. The people on the left are even more pro-Ukrainian and pro-spend all of our money and send American troops to go die in Europe. But the people on the right who actually like bought that for a while, like believed that Russia blew up their own pipeline, is crazy. We said we were going to do it. There's no real economic or strategic motive for the Russians to do it. I don't know. And like I said, it's these people now who are in charge of our foreign policy. They're going to be the ones making all of the gut instinct decisions in the cabinet meetings, like making the calls. Like, it's these people, these hawks, these people who are wrong and will lie right to your face.
I want to find police officers who believe that kind of line of logic, because that way, if I ever like wreck my car, like say I ditch it and I tear it up real bad, and I just come home and I just set it on fire, and go, well, what, that was the Russians. They're trying to get back at me. They set my car on fire because I ditched it. And because I'm driving a German car, that irritated them even more. So they found my house and they set my car on fire as a message. Don't buy German cars anymore. And just, you find a cop dumb enough to like, wow, what did you do to Putin? Like, I talk smack on him every week at Friday night at 6:30. You should hear me. I hate Putin so much. He burned my car to the ground.
So the question that Rubio was asked was, is there any evidence that the Russians blew up the pipeline, right? And Marco Rubio couldn't help but throw in a left hook at China. Had to go, I really don't like the Chinese. I mean, I really don't like them, but I don't think they would have done this. He's just he had to throw that in there. It's so frustrating because Donald Trump came in being like, I'm going to be the guy of peace. I'm going to get deals made and I'm going to bring peace to these regions. And unless his goal for peace is just letting the Israelis blow every one of their enemies with our money and our weapons, but just their people blow all of their enemies off the map, that will create maybe a couple years of peace until the next regime, even more angry and even bigger with more support, comes in and is angry because you killed all of their brothers and sisters and children, and you're creating a whole new generation of people mad at America and Israel. I mean, so unless that's his goal, you're not going to get peace in the Middle East. That's for sure.
I don't know. It is. I wish I could do a really good Trump impersonation. I wish I could do Shane Gillis's, like, that dude's about spot on with his. But yeah, I don't know, man. Again, I hope we, as liberty lovers, get a couple of small wins, because with Biden, I mean, yeah, he had the sloppy pull out of Afghanistan. That's literally all we got out of Biden. We got a sloppy exit from Afghanistan, let a bunch of people die, left all that military equipment behind. That's literally all we got. The stoppage of war in Afghanistan. Heck, they're probably still dropping bombs over there, just we have no more troops on the ground. But we're probably still running bombing campaigns because we're still running bombing campaigns in Iraq, so why wouldn't we still be blowing up Jake over there in Afghanistan? But a couple of liberty wins, like you were saying earlier, opening up the drilling and stuff again. Yeah, as they used to say back in George W. Bush's terms, drill, baby, drill. Yeah, drill, baby, drill. I mean, if gas prices go down because we are becoming more energy independent, that's a win for everybody. That's not a certain sector of the population getting some to keep some of their money. That's everybody that drives a car is going to get to keep more of their money. That is a liberty win. Now, let's just not go, we're going to become energy independent because we're also going to go, make a big crater where the Middle East is, and we won't be able to get any more of their oil, so we're going to have to get our own because I'm getting ready to just turn it into a big hole in the ground. So you got to,
No, like I said earlier, domestically, all of the picks we mentioned domestically are pretty, okay picks, not great. I heard he's considering Mike Rogers. It's either Mike Rogers or Kash Patel. I know, for FBI director.
Oh, what is he, out of his mind?
I know.
Mr. Spy Guy Mike Rogers, the Michigan idiot?
He endorsed Mike Rogers
in
his
he
Senate
did.
campaign, and he lost to Slotkin. So,
God.
Yeah, I think a lot of those picks are just looking back at from basically George Bush onward, even Trump's first cabinet picks and from his first presidency, this is so much better, so much better domestically. All of those picks from Lee Zeldin, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. They're just all so much better than what we've had before. I mean, night and day difference.
Yeah.
There's reasons to be optimistic. I just foreign policy wise, it's not there, but everything else, we are going to continue. It's going to be a lot worse in 20 years. Like 5 years from now, the country is probably going to be in a better place. And if we can eventually just stop taking tax dollars to make bombs, to bomb innocent people, then we would be, I think in 5 years, like domestically, you're going to see a lot of positive changes. Now, the culture war and how it divulges, because one thing you were mentioning, the leftist freakout at the start of the show, and something I saw, I don't remember if I brought this up on the last show, was Gavin Newsom and his brigade of his team of people who are going to defy the government. Well, now, apparently there's a lot of governors in other states who are kind of doing the same thing, and they're going to network, they said. And I was like, when did secession become a Democrat talking point? Like, they're like, a bunch of states are going to band together, and we're going to defy the federal government. And I'm like, isn't that what Texas has been trying to do for like 30 years? Like, I thought you guys thought that was crazy, and now you're all for it. We've come full circle.
And nothing, I'll be honest, nothing would make me happier than to see a bunch of blue states just leave. They're like, good. Let's see how you operate without all that federal funding.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no way.
Crash and burn, baby. Crash and burn.
They're so heavily reliant on federal funding. They get tons of federal funding and still run deficits. So there's absolutely no way they're going to leave the federal government and all of that money. It's a giant show. He wants to run in 2028. Gavin Newsom does, I'm sure. And so he's trying to like basically put his flag in the sand and say, I'm making the stand. But I guarantee you, when push comes to shove, it's not going to be there. I mean, at best, I don't even know what he's afraid of. Like, I don't get it. The fact that he's not going to give the tax credits to EVs and the governor of California is going to fight for. I just don't understand what you would be so afraid of with a Trump's presidency that he's going to force a state to do versus allowing other states to do certain things. Because he said he wouldn't sign a national abortion ban. So I really don't understand what they would even be, what the Democrats are so worried about.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm trying to find the audio. Oh, I can't. Oh, man. There was audio because I was trying to equate like what like a legion of idiots like Newsom and them having a meeting like on Skype. Remember the audio that got leaked from that communist party meeting where people kept calling for points of order saying, please don't hold your sign up in the air. It's triggering me. And they couldn't get anything accomplished because everybody had a point of order complaining about what somebody else was doing. And that's all I see with those guys. They're like, no, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now, I'm the biggest communist in this group. And if I say it goes, then you know me, guys. I ruined the whole state. You need to let me lead the charge.
So aside from that whole ruining the state part at the very end, you could have replaced the word communist with libertarian, and that was kind of how the Libertarian National Convention went as well. It was equally as dysfunctional, equally as point of order because that guy, this guy, he said that we shouldn't have done it this way. It's outrageous. It was my first convention, and it was exactly like that. I mean, our points of order were probably a little bit better than the communist points of order and like the holding of the signs thing, but it was all a bunch of nonsense. Anyway,
I forgot about that.
John, thanks to the audience for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for being in the live chats. I have to hop off early. Good to see you, John. Take it easy.
Yep. See you next Friday, bro.
Mm-hmm.
All right, folks. Let me see. There we go. Get Brandon's picture off the screen so it's not so weird. All right, folks. Well, we'll just keep going as long as I can go here. I don't know. I had a head cold like a few weeks ago. I don't know if it's the stupid weather changing back and forth. God, my nose is just running. Got drainage again in my throat. I don't know if, whatever. Voodoo Queen says California has Trump support on splitting into 2 states. Yeah, I mean, if you take the coast away, from like San Francisco, Oakland, L.A., San Francisco, you just take the Bay Area and you just kind of separated from the rest of the state? Because, I mean, looking at the electoral map of California, there was a lot of red in that state. It would be interesting to see how that would go. Again, years ago, Illinois, Cook County, somebody put forward a bill in Illinois to make Cook County its own state because they're tired of the corruption of one county just kind of ruining it for the rest of Illinois. Gary writes, is Brandon skating so he can watch the Tyson fight? No, I think he's actually going deer hunting. He had to head to deer camp, and maybe he'll watch the Tyson fight. I don't know. All I have to say about the Tyson fight is if Mike Tyson doesn't ruin Jake Paul's face, I'm going to be really disappointed. I hope he hits him with one of those classic, like, lower body shots, then the patented uppercut, and he just snaps Paul's head back, and he just forgets who he is for about a week. I don't know. I'm a boxing guy. I don't watch boxing like I used to. Of course, I don't have cable or satellite or any of that. But me and my dad would sit and watch boxing matches all the time. I kind of miss just sitting down and watching a good fight. But this whole Jake Paul, Mike Tyson thing, good Lord. I hope Tyson does just rearrange his face. Like, he is unrecognizable after the fight without a lot of surgeries. Jake Paul just gets on my nerves. He talks so much smack. He has to fight people who aren't good boxers because anytime he fights somebody in his age range that are really good boxers, he loses. So he's fighting. What is he, 30-something? Or maybe he's not even 30 yet, and he's fighting someone who's 58. And Tyson still looks ripped. He still is in great shape. Mike Tyson could be 80 years old, and I still won't go talk smack to that guy. Because even at 80, if he hits me, he'd probably kill me. That dude was that was a bad man in his prime. And people would climb into the ring with him. I was like, you're on a suicide mission. You definitely want to die. Because I think the breeze from one of his, like, really good hooks would have probably knocked me unconscious. Now, I am built like a 12-year-old, or so I've been told. So if Mike Tyson swung at me hard enough, he'd probably knock me over. I hope Jake Paul just gets his face rearranged, little jackass. But that's just me. I'm a boxing purist, and these morons that get in here like, oh, look at me, I'm a terrific fighter. Like, yeah, if you fight people twice your age, you're awesome. Fighting people at your age group, and you get the snot knocked out of you, which you deserve a lot. So yeah, anyway, getting back to the freedom talk here. Here in the next few weeks, I'm hoping to have Catherine Dreyer and Tom Martz on with me and Brandon and do a little bit of a Liberty Roundtable. I haven't had Catherine on in quite a while. Tom's been a guest on here several times. But, yeah, we're trying to work on that. We'll find a Friday night. We'll have Catherine and Tom on with us, and that should be one dandy show. Again, I still am going to I haven't had the time to get a hold of the park board to try to set up the pavilion for next year and the Coolidge Day, but I still want to get that done as well. And I want that to be a massive kickoff as far as Coolidge Days go, so I want that to be big. And, I mean, even if we don't draw a huge crowd, I'll be happy if we just get a lot of people showing up to talk about, what a good president actually is. Again, I voted for Trump in this election. I couldn't vote for Chase Oliver after his comments on transgenderism, some of the things he said about Ron Paul, things he said about Lou Rockwell, and then asked about sex changes for prisoners, and he was okay with that. I'm like, okay, you're a libertarian, but you're going to take taxpayer dollars and fund somebody's sex change operation? Am I hearing that right? So I couldn't vote for him either. Now, I want to lay it to you. I want to lay it out to you like this, because people are like, well, you did vote for Trump. Yeah, I did. It's not like I'm super proud that I voted for Trump, okay? It's not something I walk around I don't get T-shirts. I voted for Trump. Trump's awesome. Trump's the man. I don't have any of this, this Trump swag that I wear around all the time, like I see a lot of people doing. But Trump will. There's different types of evil. So Trump may fund Israel to just blow up Palestinian children, which is evil. And then Chase Oliver seems cool with transing kids, also evil. And maybe in the process mangling them or damaging them, injuring them, also evil. Now, killing someone and injuring them is two different things. I mean, you have a little bit higher level of evil. But if you're going to be okay with the whole transing thing, that to me is also evil, especially when you're doing it to children. So that both of them seem happy with doing some sort of evil. And so again, my reasoning was maybe this keeps us away from playing chicken with a nuclear superpower starting World War III if Trump gets into office and he, calms things down a little bit. That was my mindset. I know there's people out there in the Libertarian Party right now, angry. They're throwing jabs at Angela McArdle because she seemed happy about RFK getting the head of HHS and saying something about him being libertarian. I don't know, but Angela McArdle and some of those folks in the Mises Caucus, as far as I'm concerned, have done more to try to make the Libertarian Party relevant than a lot of others have. All right, Voodoo, will you have a good night? She's got hunters rolling in, so she got to get. Oh, she said she'll be right back. Never mind. But yeah, it's just the thing when I go to work and it's Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump, and everybody's just like, whoo. Now, again, I got giddy when Tulsi Gabbard was named head of the, what is it, National, whatever, National Intelligence. Okay, I was extremely happy with that. I hope that secret skies thing is fresh in her mind. And DNI, thank you. Director of National Intelligence. That's what it is. Thank you, Gary. I hope she has that in her mind, and I hope her policies or whatever reflect that to say, hey, let's not be targeting people because they don't have the same political ideology as we do. Things like that, and that stuff gets toned down. And maybe some of the spying gets slowed down. Things like that. That would make me extremely happy to hear, to see things like that. Again, not saying that the government's going to, they're going to get in there and fix everything. But a slowing down of the process would be nice. Because let's face it, we've been running just a head full of steam right towards the edge of a cliff. No doubt about it. We've been headed for the edge of a cliff for quite a while, and not just foot to the floor. And so it would be nice to see a slowdown of that. Again, I don't expect problems to be solved because there are establishment critters everywhere, and good luck rooting them all out. Good luck digging them, getting them all to come out of their holes, so you can dispose of them and put somebody else in their place. I don't see that ever happening. I think you have to have the whole system has to collapse, and even then, you have to have a public ready for actual change as far as how government is supposed to act and how they are supposed to interact with their government, which should be minimal. You should have minimal interaction with your government. And that's just not the case. I mean, every time you turn around, you got to ask somebody permission for something with your house, with your, sometimes with your job, all that happy noise. So hard to say. I think we can all say that we're not going to get a whole bunch of liberty back. We might see little increments of maybe keeping some of our own hard-earned money. Maybe gas prices go down because we resume drilling and things here in the country, and we get back to a little more energy independence, which I am not against in the least bit. I'm quite happy with that. But to say that we're going to make America great and we're going to fix everything in 4 years, that's the thing, folks. We didn't get here in 4 years, and we sure as heck aren't going to climb out of this hole in 4 years. And do I ever see D.C. being fixed totally? Of course not. I think that's naive to believe that one man is going to just show up in D.C. and just change the whole environment. I've never believed that. Again, I think if you could get a Ron Paul type in the White House, he could at least shift the focus to Congress to be like, they could write awful bills. He could veto them, and then the media would be like, "What's the deal?" And he's like, "That was an awful bill, unconstitutional. Ask them why they can't abide by their oath of office." That would be fun to watch. Again, he can't stop the corruption. He can't stop all the awful spending and everything else. I mean, it's so prevalent. And it's so deeply rooted into the system. I don't know how you could get out of that. So, we got, as one guy at work used to say, the problem is this place got a lot of problems. And the problem with D.C. is it's got a lot of problems. And it will be interesting to watch it go down, to say the least. And it'll also be the Missouri legislative session coming up could be quite interesting. I mean, you've got John Patterson now, who will be Speaker of the House. As far as I can see, no improvement over Dean Plocker. I don't see Kehoe being any better than Parson. Still an awful lot of rhinos in the state house. So do I see any real improvements coming to Missouri as far as legislative session goes? No, not really. I know there will be groups out there like the Missouri Freedom Initiative, Missouri First, and some of these others who will be fighting to get good things done. But man, it is a tall order, because these rhinos in Missouri are also have deeply entrenched themselves into the system. And it is a lobbyist playground, even in Jefferson City. And that's something I still don't think enough people really understand, how corrupt Jefferson City is. It's easy to look at D.C. and see it. I mean, all you have to do is turn on the news and listen to these people talk, and it's terrible. I think people still have a misconception of how bad Jefferson City really is as far as corruption and greed goes. Now, I wish more people would grasp that, maybe not pay so much attention to D.C. and focus a little more on Missouri. Again, if you're going to root out corruption, you have a little bit better chance in your state. Actually, you have a way better chance at the state level than you do the federal level. But people also have to educate themselves. All these people who vote for all the Republicans because they're better than Democrats, they don't look at their voting record and see their actions. So it's like, not really. Not as good as you think they are. Until people get that into their heads that Jefferson City is just about as bad as D.C., I don't see Missouri gaining on gaining and getting up levels in the freedom index as far as states go, because we definitely there is definitely a lot of greed and corruption in Jefferson City. And might I add that Scott Vaughn should change the name of his show from This Week in Missouri Politics to, matchmaker game. It's like, let's see how many rhinos we can get in a room and pat each other on the back and and we'll high five each other on how awesome we are. It's like he should just write a dating site for rhinos. Well, rhinos and lobbyists. I mean, he kind of already does, according to some of the things I've heard. But he should just make a show out of it. Like, it'd be like, legislator number 1. Let's say I want to get subsidies for corn. How would you do that? And then the lobbyists would pick out of the 3 legislators their favorite as far as how many political favors they can gain from a certain individual. So it's just like a matchmaker game, but it's for rhinos and lobbyists. And I think he could have quite a successful show. He'd probably make more money than what he does now with the with his website and little YouTube show that he's got. So yeah, maybe somebody should pitch that to Fawn. Maybe somebody in the TV industry or something could pitch that to him. He can have a rhino matchmaking game. I don't know what I can't come up with a good name off the top of my head. But I guess you could just rename it Let's Make a Deal. But instead of people trying to pick a door, it's a lobbyist picking a legislator to get see who they can bribe the most to vote the way they want so they can get rid of their competition. I think Scott Fawn is the man for that job. And it's, just like Kehoe and Patterson and a whole bunch of others there in Jefferson City. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I think Missouri is about lost too. The amount of rhinos that get in and continue to get in, and the very few actual freedom-oriented representatives that get in to the state house, I'm getting to the point where it's almost like, don't even worry about the state level. Just worry about literally your town. I feel like the state is almost lost. If Republicans can't figure out how to be more liberty-oriented and stop depending solely on lobbyists to get enough money into their coffers to keep winning elections, this state is not ever going to be more free. If we don't get the lobbyist action knocked off, I don't think Missouri ever gets more free than what we are right now. We might make little gains here and there, but as long as these lobbyists have a firm foothold in that Capitol building, I mean, you heard if you listen to my interview with Bryant Wolfen, he laid it out pretty well. He laid it out real well. And that doesn't give me a lot of hope to win over and make Missouri more free at the state level. Because, again, just the amount of lobbyists running around that building, having the influence to help elect the Speaker of the House and the Majority Floor Leader and the Senate Pro Tem and all those. I mean, my state rep said in a meeting that it's disgusting that when they're going to have votes for those positions, that there are lobbyists everywhere. And again, that's not even voting on legislation. That's just who's running the floor in those chambers. So they're out in front of everybody else. You get Patterson as Speaker of the House, good luck getting anything liberty-oriented through. And you had Caleb Rowden and Cindy O'Laughingstock and some of these others. Good luck getting anything good through there. Yeah, you pull out a good piece of paper with liberty stuff on it, and they'll just whip it out and pee right on it. And look you dead in the eye while they're doing it, splashing it on your shoes. Like, oh, that liberty piece of legislation? The one I'm peeing on right now, that's what you want to get done? Ha! Good luck. Now, again, I might be a little pessimistic, and I understand that. But from what I've seen out of Jefferson City, I don't hold a whole lot of hope for that building either. To me, the only way this gets repaired is if the body or the bodies of both chambers and the members therein gain enough backbone to push back and say, hey, we know you said this is your most important bill. We're going to say no to that right now. You either get these bills through, passed to the governor, or you're not getting what you want. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. Sorry, Majority Floor Leader. You're not getting what you want until we get what we want. And I think that's the only way they win. Again, several groups out there who go to the Capitol and talk to these reps and try to push good legislation through. But when the leadership doesn't want it, you're not going to get it. We've seen what they've done to gold and silver 2 years in a row. Now, again, I don't, SEPA took many years. Gold and silver may take that. But it seems like the leadership in the House and the Senate just gets worse term after term. And that's why I think it's just going to continue to get harder to get anything done until those members decide to stand up to the leadership. Some of them, oh yeah, we really gotta really watch these guys. Okay, build a coalition of people who will stand up and say, we'll tank every bill that you think is so precious. We'll tank them all. Good luck. What are you gonna do? Censure me? You're gonna take away my committee chair? Okay. You're still not gonna get the bills you want through because I'll make sure we tank every single one of them. I don't think anything changes until members, the representatives and the senators, grow a little bit of a backbone, get some, grow some cojones, if you will. I don't see it changing much. Again, that may be a little pessimistic of me, and I get it. And maybe I'm just being a negative Nancy here. But, again, I've seen the way these people act. I've seen the way reps treat people who are very good to them. And I'm like, wow, you're supposed to be, a so-called Christian conservative, and here you are treating somebody who helps you any way they can, and you just shut them out and don't want to talk to them anymore. It's like, what the heck are we doing here? I'm trying to help you, and you want to turn around and pee on me. Okay. And that's when you just go, well, I'm not helping you out anymore. Good luck in your, campaigns from here on out. Because you just lost a fighter for you. So it is a little disheartening. I get it. And, I'm no expert in this. There are many other people, Ron Calzone being the top of that list of people who know the ins and outs. And I don't envy those people at all who are actively fighting to get something good done. But man, that leadership, they are just as tainted and poisonous as you can get. And again, until I think we the people you can get 2,000 calls into an office in a half a day, and they don't budge an inch. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? Are we going to keep pounding on them, or do we tell the members and help the members grow a backbone? I don't know. I don't even know if you can get them to grow a backbone. I don't know if you can pressure some of these people enough to grow a spine and step up to the plate and swing for the fences, if you will. That's just my 2 cents, folks. I'm just a podcaster. I'm a nobody. I just get behind a mic once a week and talk about freedom issues. I'm no expert, clearly. If I was, I won't say I'd lead a group of my own because, God forbid, that'd be like the blind leading the blind, I think. I have people just rolling around on the floor. What do we do next? I don't know. I'm dumb. So there are way more intelligent people out there heading these things up than I will ever think about being. And so that's a positive thing. But yeah, a lot of work to do here in Missouri and even in your local area to try to get more of your freedoms back. And again, it really helps if you have reps and senators who actually know the Constitution. that's another step. But, you know, how do you get them to read it? You can't force them to. You can't tie them to a chair and hold their eyes open and flip the pages and read it out loud to them, say, do you understand, and give them a test to make sure they were paying attention. You can't do that either. So there's a lot of facets to this that's got to be worked on. Well, folks, I'm out of steam. It's been a long week. I'm going to go ahead and end the show now. See if I can't get my stupid nose unplugged here. But again, thanks for joining me this week, and Brandon, for another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. I appreciate all of you who joined us. This week is Gary Ride was in here, Voodoo Queen, and somebody else was in here too. Could have swore. But anyway, and this week I also just went ahead and I streamed to Facebook and Rumble as well. So those of you in any of those live streams, greatly appreciate each and every one of you as usual. And again, to those of you in the radio land or podcast land, thank you very much. And if you are listening to this podcast, leave a review. Give us a like and a follow, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And that'll work on the algorithm, and hopefully more people see us and join us for the show, either download or, you know, live stream. But thanks again, everybody. Gary, good to see you back in here, buddy. Voodoo Queen, as always, she's always first in the live stream with her, always with a good evening, folks, or a hello, gang, if you know. That's how she starts off every live stream every week. Voodoo Queen is number one into the live stream every week, so we really appreciate you as well, Voodoo Queen. But again, folks, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Make sure you come back here next Friday at 6:30 and join us again. Also, I don't want to. I'm assuming I got the job that I applied for, same place that I work now. I just applied for a different position, for a salary position. It looks like I do have the job. I'm just waiting for official word. And so when that training period is done, I will be moving to the weekend shift. So again, the show will be shifting to, it looks like, Wednesday nights, about the same time, 6 to 6:30. And those of you in MOLibertyRadio.us, you'll still hear it on Saturdays and Wednesdays. That time frame, as far as I know, will not change. It's just the live stream portion will move up a couple nights up to Wednesday night. But that's a couple months away, I'd say. I was told it'd be a month to 2 months of training before they put me on my shift and kind of set me out on my own. So, yeah, it'll be maybe January, February before the live stream day moves schedule. So anyway, thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next week right here on the Missouri Liberty Report.